adjusting the camera. Um, it is Friday afternoon, about 1:10, and I guess I'll start off with where I left off this morning on my burpee video. I'm talking about um, restorative um, actions that we can do. I'm going to go so far as to say restorative actions that we should do every day, because um, something I got from Coach Stan John a long time ago. If something's worth doing, it's worth doing every day. You don't negotiate flossing your teeth, hopefully, or even brushing your teeth or things like that. You basically do these things because you know they're good for you. I used to have like non-negotiables in my diet. I had 5 servings of vegetables every single day. It's funny now, I don't consider them non-negotiable because it's just such an everyday practice. I can't even imagine not. I can't imagine not doing them. That it gets to that certain point where those little non-negotiables that you have are now part of your everyday routine, and you're the better for it. Hey, Burpees Bandit is here. Hello, how are you? It must be really early in your neck of the woods. For those not familiar, and I can't imagine anyone not being familiar with the legendary Burpees Bandit, he is in Australia. He's in Melbourne, Australia, I believe. Sort of talking about something that may be, actually I'm sure it will be of interest in you, because almost everyone has an interest in that, the restorative things that we can add into our routine that, 1, simply make us feel better, 2, help us recover to continue doing and to do more of the things we love to do. Bandit says that he's awake mostly after a huge sugar and junk food binge. Yep, 4:10. Feel guilty after eating. How do you prevent binges of overeating? I don't think you do. I don't think that you can prevent things like that. What I do think you can do is keep adding on to your diet, nutritionally speaking. Eating cleaner more often, making those healthy food choices, and then you fuck up. And when you do, you dust yourself off and you go back to doing those things that you do that are good for you. That actually ties right into the conversation, those restorative things. So I'm not a big believer in feeling guilty for the things that we do, because if you could have done otherwise, you would have. There's so much that goes into those choices that we make, choices that we seem to make. Hormones, conditioning, the diet that we've been eating. There's just so much that goes in that we think that we gave in to this bad choice, but it's just conditions. Conditions were right for that to happen. So when you set things up, eating healthier more frequently, then you set those conditions. Otherwise, you set the conditions. The better you eat, the better you want to eat. It's just a cycle. But every once in a while, things go a little haywire. In yoga, Destiny Forever Walks, PhD is here. Happy Friday, Eric. How are you? I'm working but listening to your message. I hope things are going well at your work. I'm doing great today. This is a topic that Destiny, it's right up her alley as well, because she is someone who has put out some excellent videos on eating better. Bandit says that he seems to eat extremely strict And then binge after cravings. I have been adding to small chocolate each day to prevent cravings, but it didn't help last night. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't. Um, that's a little bit of chocolate. For me, it wouldn't be milk chocolate, it would be dark chocolate. Is actually good for you, just a little bit. But that's the thing. I don't think like eating it every day would ever prevent a craving, because sometimes you just have one piece and you want more. Maybe you'd be better off once every couple of weeks. You have a little bit more, and that satisfies that craving, and you know that it'll come a time when you're going to have more again. I was going to mention Lewis is here. It is what it is. Burpees Bandit, don't feel guilty, my dude. I agree, actually, with it is what it is. I'm not a big fan of guilt. I'm not a big believer in guilt because it doesn't serve a purpose, because what's done is already done. And it doesn't prevent you from doing it again. So you did what you did, and it's fine. You work it off. No one in the burpees community works harder than you. Maybe to make up for it, do 11.5-minute routine. Supercharged plus 12 minutes. Set yourself a punishment. There you go. Burpee Bandit says he's going to use extra calories for a big exercise weekend. So here's the yogic, the Vedic perspective, as well as Buddhist in some regards. Remember, Buddhism gets its foundation first from yoga. Buddha himself was a yogi. When he left his kingdom as Prince Siddhartha, he practiced yoga until he realized that he was not on the path for him. He sat under the Bodhi tree, swearing he wouldn't move until he awakened, which happened. Now, in Buddha, there's two concepts. Priya, P-R-E-Y-A, and Shriya, Shri, S-H-R-E-Y-A. And those are seemingly two choices that we make. One is the path of instant gratification, giving in. The other, we could say, is the path of delayed gratification. One is of instant pleasure, one is of delayed pleasure. And we're not picking that path of delayed pleasure to push things off, to stall things. We know that by taking that path, the somewhat harder path, that is the path to greater happiness, greater joy. When we take that path of instant gratification, we're left with those feelings of dissatisfaction. It doesn't serve us in any way. It felt good when we did it, but we're left with that feeling of, was it worth it? I was doing so well. When you make that choice more and more and more, when you make the harder choice more often, when you choose that path of delayed gratification more often, it becomes a habit. It becomes a pattern. And I've talked before about the yogic view, it's all patterns in the mind. And the whole purpose of yoga is to end our association with those patterns and be the pure awareness in which we are that observes those patterns in effect. It is what it is says, here's the secret: if you want to eat junk food, you got to do intermittent fasting. I do agree with intermittent fasting quite a bit. And Burpees Bandit says, I need a middle ground. Most of my adult life working for delayed gratification. I need those times of instant gratification, just like junk food. And he does do intermittent fasting. Well, here's the thing. Be aware of both of those choices. Whenever possible, you make the choice towards what you want. And every once in a while, you're going to make that choice of the thing you don't want, like you did last night. The thing is, you don't punish yourself. You don't feel guilty. You just get back on track. Easily, gently. It's the same with meditation. When you sit down and meditate, the goal of meditation isn't to cease thoughts. It's to cease your identification with the thoughts. To realize that you're not the thoughts, that you're the observer of the thought. But as soon as you sit down and meditate, you got 10,000 crazy thoughts going on in your brain. And your mind just keeps racing after each and every one of them. So you gently, easily, effortlessly, you just start thinking your mantra, where you focus on the breath. And then the mind wanders. Instead of getting upset and saying, shit, I can't believe I did that again, you just come back to the mantra, easily, gently. There's an example. There's certain Native American tribes in the Southwest. When they dye a cloth, they take that canvas cloth, it's beige, it doesn't have any color at all. They dip it in a vat of, let's say, red dye. They just dip it in. They take it out and let it dry. And you can't see a little bit of difference. It looks the same. And then they dip it back in and they let it dry. Still can't see a difference. They do it a third time and you see just a little hint of color. They do it over and over again until eventually that cloth, that piece of canvas, plain canvas, becomes a solid color red. Every time you meditate, you dip into pure consciousness. And then your mind wanders and you dip back in. Your mind wanders, you dip back in. Every time you make a healthy choice in what you eat, you're satisfying your true desire of being healthy, of having a balanced diet, of doing the things that you know are good for you. But sometimes you go off course. Instead of punishing yourself, instead of getting upset, instead of doing anything other than getting right back on the path. And then you're fine. Eventually, the path is straight and narrow. You don't waver. How long does it take to get there? Who cares? If you go 6 days a week eating well and you go off course one day, one meal, one piece of chocolate, who cares? All it means is you went off course and then you go back. The key for me is not making a big deal over anything. It's not a big deal if I cheat. It's not a big deal that I'm vegan. It's just what I do. Let's see. Get back to the conversation. That's the thing with modification. Everything in moderation. I always hear that it's big in the fitness community. Everything in moderation, which simply isn't true. Because we don't do things for one, we do burpees. We don't do anything in moderation. You have an 11-minute burpee routine that packs in 17 hours worth of burpees in 11 minutes. There's nothing moderate about that. It is what it is. Is a master of 5-pump burpees. There's absolutely nothing moderate about that. Destiny dances on a treadmill. That's not moderation, that's joy. As well, nobody smokes cigarettes in moderation. We don't say, well, everything in moderation. If we suffered the ill effects of our bad habits instantly, if we smoked one cigarette and immediately got emphysema, lung cancer, high blood pressure, progressive heart failure, congestive heart failure, how many cigarettes would we smoke? How many cigarettes would we continue to smoke? If we ate one Big Mac and immediately gained 20 pounds and got high blood pressure and high cholesterol, a host of other issues. How many Big Macs would we eat? But because we don't see those ill effects until later in life, we continue to do these things and we keep saying to ourselves, everything in moderation. So my belief is screw moderation. Eat healthy, eat well, and allow yourself to mess up. And when you mess up, you go back, you eat healthy, you eat well. You don't choose to mess up. You don't choose to go off the path. It just happens. So when it happens, it happens. And guilt only adds to it. So let's see. Let's see. It is what it is. Says one piece of chocolate makes me jiggle for a week. Hey, Lewis, how much weight have you gained on your sabbatical that you're on? Destiny says, sounds like find the solution to your problem. Taking breaths are absolutely important, and practicing keep the body in control. Burpees Bandit. I definitely agree with breath work. As well, you know what? A meditation practice, because the more you meditate, the more you see how a desire will rise up like any other thought, and you'll be the witness to it, and it feels like you have more control. You'll see it, and when you see it, everything changes when you're aware. Nothing changes when you're not aware, because things just continue as they were. But once you're aware of those patterns, once you're aware of where the mind is leading you, you no longer have to go down that road. It's a little easier. And you know what? For me, yoga, meditation, breath work, it's all about making life a little easier. It doesn't have to be this drastic change. It doesn't have to be enlightenment. It doesn't have to be this great sense of awakening. It could be. It doesn't have to be. For me, just being a little happier is enough. For me, someone who spent decades in a bar, literally, if you added up all the hours I spent in a bar, it would easily add up to be a decade, I bet. For somebody who has suffered anxiety, panic attacks, depression, a little happier, no small thing for me. All right. £18. Wow. Hey, I know you've explained how you work it, so I have no doubt. As a matter of fact, I'm looking forward to seeing you jump back in and watching that journey, because I know it's going to be impressive. I know that even though, as you mentioned, you'll struggle at the beginning, day by day by day. It's just like when I was talking about putting that piece of canvas in the die. Every day you can hit those burpees, and every day you're going to see that little bit of change, So that's that's a force to be reckoned with, Lewis, in my opinion. Mariam, am I pronouncing your name right? And I apologize if I'm not. Hello to you, my friend. Destiny says breathing and meditation go hand in hand. Yes, I definitely agree with that. Just my experience being expressed. I'm 100% with your assessment there, Destiny. It is what it is. Says the reason I like starting again is to help and push those that think they can't bang out thousands of burpees in one setting. I want to show people that yes, you can do it. And you certainly do. You definitely inspired a lot of people. Let's see. I'm going back to see what I've missed. Bandit says, good point. Getting back on the right track today. Thoughts on eating vegetarian, vegan, but the risks of pesticides and herbicides. You know what? Well, one thing, the meat in Australia is of higher quality, and you mentioned this yourself, than it is in America. When you get a hamburger here, you know, people think they're getting hamburger from a cow. They're getting hamburger from cows, multiple cows, not just one. And you don't know the health of any of those cows. And most of the meat is pumped full of steroids and antibiotics, other chemicals, other stuff. It's just scary. I would imagine that being the case, the vegetables and the fruit are probably of a higher quality in Australia as well. And most herbicides and pesticides, if you get a good washing agent, cleansing agent, and you can buy it in a supermarket, at least here, for just a few dollars, takes care of all that. Probably 90% of the fruits and vegetables I eat are organic, and they don't use pesticides or herbicides. There's a few that I don't generally eat organic bananas. Bananas, for the most part, are covered. So things along those lines, I'm a little more lax. I know we have what they call the Dirty Dozen, which are the 12 list of fruits and vegetables that are better for you if you buy organic. I eat a lot of leafy greens, and I get organic with those. It is what it is, says, appreciate that, Eric. You're welcome. Like I said, you put in the work as much, if not more so, than anyone else out there in the burpee community. I always feel, especially conversations like this, feel privileged to be able to have a conversation with people that I consider top of the line in the fitness. I could say fitness and burpees. To me, if you say burpees, you're saying fitness, because you can't do burpees the way you guys do burpees without it being fitness. Fitness in the highest order, actually. Let's see. It is what it is, says Burpees King. Commented on my donut short video. What did he have to say? I think I might have saw that, actually. And Versus Bandit says, would you want to live forever? Why not? Good question. And it is what it is, says no. Well, the world sucks. It certainly can. That's for sure. You can't look around realistically and not come to that conclusion sometimes, especially right now. I think these are fraught times, to use an older term. I don't know. You know what? I don't think about living forever or not living forever. As my father, he made it to 93. His philosophy was to live as healthily as long as possible. As long as he could be independent somewhat towards the end of his life, if he needed some help, and I was happy to be there to provide it for him. I was happy to be his caregiver. But for 92 and a half years, he was pretty much independent, moving, could keep going, walked every day. As a matter of fact, his last trip to the hospital for the very last time before he came home in hospice care, him and I took a walk. We had a walk from the living room through the kitchen, down the hallway, back in the living room, one lap, and we would do laps. I would help him from his wheelchair, and we would do laps. I think when you meditate, and I hate to keep pushing everyone should meditate, except I think everyone should meditate. You gain this sense of who and what you truly are. You gain this sense of being the witness, being a deep participant as life. My dad was a science teacher, and he would talk about the molecules of the body, the atoms that make up those molecules, the particles that make up those atoms, and the space that's within it all, the infinite space, are immortal. They live forever. They were here at the very first construction of the universe. The elements that make up our body have been here forever. So in what sense aren't we already living forever? We think about our personality, but what actually is our personality? What makes up our personality? Is it the same as it was when we were an infant? When we were 3? When we were a toddler? A teenager? Mine isn't. But here's the thing that has always been the same. That pure awareness of each and every one of those stages. The awareness that was witness to all of that. The awareness that when I was born, the moment I came into this world, I was aware. When I was in the womb, I was aware. What was I aware of? I was aware of being in the womb. But because of the absence of experience, because I had no sense of conceptualizing anything, that awareness is pure. Don't confuse memory with awareness. Awareness is that which witnesses memories. It's not the same thing. So, if there is awareness that predates me coming to this world, who's to say there's not an awareness, that same awareness, that continues when this personality and physical form leave? I don't know. Doesn't matter. What I do know right now is I'm aware. I'm aware of the personality, that's Eric. I'm aware that this personality screws things up all the time. I'm aware that this personality, that this body has some issues. But that awareness itself, that witness to all of it, doesn't have a single issue whatsoever. That keeps me feeling pretty good, actually. Bandit says, then you could say collectively that we are collectively all aware. And that is such a keen and important insight. Actually a beautiful thing for you to say. And the answer is yes, we are. Not only that, here's the remarkable thing. There is only one awareness. Only one. There's not the awareness of a tree being a tree. There's not an awareness of Burpees Bandit being Burpees Bandit and Eric McCarty being Eric McCarty. It's just awareness. Manifesting in the singularity of a tree, of Bandit, of Eric. And when those personalities, when the essence of the tree revert back to essence, we're just aware. That's it. As one entity as the universe. Exactly. Bennett says, Eric, what is your... I used to think that, and now I think this. That's interesting, because I'm not sure... That might be my answer. I'm not sure. Because more and more, I let that thinking go. Not completely, not yet, but more often. In Zen Buddhism, particularly in Korean Zen Buddhism, they tell you to always go with a don't know mind. Because that's where you're going to end up anyway. don't know. The most amazing words that we can say. I don't know. So if people say, does that one awareness last forever? I don't know. Suzuki Roshi wrote Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, one of the first Zen priests to come to America and offer authentic Zen. When he was dying, he was asked, what's going to happen after you die? What's going to happen to you after you die? And he said, I don't know. And his student looked at him shocked and said, but how could you not know? You're awakened, you're enlightened. You're Suzuki Roshi, a meditation master. And Suzuki Roshi looked at him and said, yes, but I'm not a dead meditation master. He simply didn't know. I'm sure he speculated, I'm sure he had thoughts. But when right now is enough, right now is enough. And right now is always enough. Even when we think of things outside of right now, we are still thinking of things right now. Or am I going in circles? Let's see. Brayley Williams. Am I pronouncing your name right? Probably not. It says cutie. And I'm absolutely certain that you are replying to Burpees Bandit being a cutie. I am not sure that that description has ever been thrown in my direction before. Smartass quite a few times. Son of a bitch fairly often. Quite a few other adjectives. Let's see. Well, you know, one thing, Bandit, I grew up, I went to a Catholic school, so there are quite a few beliefs that I have let go of. You know, that I used to think that I was an individual soul. And I won't say that I don't think that now, but I revert back to now I don't know. Or, you know, I used to think that there was one path to heaven. And now I revert back to I just don't know. I always go back to Saint Catherine of Siena, who said, all the way to heaven is heaven. And I just love that. And anytime I get an opportunity to remember it, it brings a smile to my face. Destiny says that she believes that we live on from one life to the next, and that life is for eternity. We may become a different person in each life, but we still live out that life until it's time for the next one. And that is also the traditional yogic view, that we are living out our lives through the force of karmic actions, those patterns that we talked about before, and until we use up that karmic energy, we continue until we get it. So, have I missed anything? Burpee says, how religious are you versus spiritual? I am not religious at all. I'm always slightly hesitant to use the word spiritual as well, because it's loaded with concepts of what people consider to be spiritual versus non-spiritual. A spiritual person does this. You could certainly look at the things that I do in life and say, this is a very spiritual guy. I wake up every morning at 3 a.m. The first thing I do is to say thank you, to be grateful. Second thing I do after I use the bathroom, I'm 58 years old. The second thing I do is a yoga posture. I mentioned that this morning, actually. And it is sitting in the easy posture, meditation position. And I do my meditation. I do my breath work, I do my meditation. And then I do my first yoga session for the day. I have coffee and I write about what people would consider spiritual matters. I post it on my blog. And then I go out for a walk in nature. I do my workout, go for a run. I have another longer yoga practice. I have another meditation. I'll be doing that shortly, actually. So people would view my life and say, this is a very spiritual person. But that's just what I do. My concept of being spiritual is being a good person. Yoga, the path of yoga starts with what they call the ethical restraints. Yamas and niyamas. There's 5 yamas. Those are the restraints. There's 5 niyamas. Those are the personal observances. The yamas, the very first one, non-harm. And they're called restraints because we restrain ourselves from harming so that peace grows. By restraining one aspect, the opposite of that aspect becomes the conditions of our life. The other one is non-lying, non-stealing, practicing proper energy. Some people might think of it as abstinence. Technically, it doesn't have to be that. It's just being aware of how we spend our energy. And when you practice those, or then when you practice the niyamas, again, you practice non-lying. It means that everything you say is the truth because you practice non-lying. Those are my traditional spiritual, following that path of yoga. The complete path of yoga would be what I would consider my spiritual view. I consider my diet to be my spiritual practice because it's non-harm, it's ahimsa. The whole principle of my diet is to cause the least amount of harm as possible. I grew up religious, and I was certainly happy to let that go at the end of the day, that's for sure. Destiny Forever, as always, sums it up perfectly. Oneness with the divine creator and with mankind. Not only does she sum it up perfectly, but she sums it up beautifully as well. Burpees Bandit says, but you could be ignorant that you are ignorant, as you say, and then be lying. Absolutely true. So you do the best you can. But through these practices, through yoga, the entire path of yoga, specifically through meditation, you gain a sense of spaciousness around those thoughts. Here's what isn't lying. Absolute silence. Herman Melville said in Moby Dick, silence is the only true voice of God. If I think I might say something that's not true, I can always be quiet. And I can also not believe my thoughts. Just because I think it doesn't mean it's true. Just because I think it doesn't mean it's reality. A thought is just a vibrational frequency, vibrational quality. As you meditate, those vibrations get more and more subtle, and you start to see when they come up. The mind is still during meditation, and then you see that little ripple, and it becomes a thought. It used to be, when you see that thought, you immediately chase after it. Where's it going to go? What's it going to lead you to? But the longer you meditate, the more you can just let that thought go about its business. It's not you. So I certainly could be lying. And if that's the case, and I suspect it, I can just be quiet. And I can let that lie, I can let that belief, I can let that thought, I can let it alone. Bandit says, so like you mentioned, saying, I don't know is good more often than not. Exactly. And you can't get wrong. You can't go wrong in saying, I don't know. You can say, I suspect, I think, I would like, I believe. You know what? Katie Bryan, who wrote a couple wonderful books. I have some on the shelf here. Loving What Is one of them. That might be her first book. She has a path of self-inquiry. Self-inquiry is simply asking those important questions, the questions that Burpee's Bandit is asking, but asking yourself, and don't settle on an answer, because any answer you give is not the true answer. As they say in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, that's as close as I'm going to get to saying it correctly. The map is not the territory, or the menu is not the meal. The thought isn't reality. The thought is a description of reality. So when we say, I don't know, we are as truthful as possible. Her form of self-inquiry is to ask yourself, is this true? If you have a belief, if you have a thought, simply ask yourself, is this true? And then you can go on and say, can I absolutely know for certain that this is true? Rather than just live with that uncertainty. There's a lot of worse things in this life than being uncertain, and I'll tell you one thing that I consider to be worse than being uncertain, and that's to be certain. You know who was certain? Hitler was certain. Everyone who's ever forced their will upon the world for the detriment of millions have been certain, absolutely certain. And it's only caused suffering. Uncertainty leaves room for you to be right and for me to be wrong, or for me to be right and you to be wrong. Uncertainty allows everything to rise up. It doesn't mean that we don't have to act as if we think something is certain, because we will. But it keeps things a little easier. And again, as I mentioned, that's a big thing for me. Let's see. Bandit says that I enjoy being silent more than talking. Me as well. But then I feel like my existence is not being validated. I'm not talking, more engaging with others in conversations, etc. Well, here's the funny thing, that your existence is silence, and everything else is an add-on. Silence is that which allows things to be. Silence and space are the same thing. It's the note, it's the silence in between each note that makes the song. It's a silence within a vase that holds the flowers. If that makes sense. I think it does. So your existence is silence. Everything that comes after, and we can call that, and Destiny and I have talked about this before, the I am. I am is that prior state to everything. And then you say I am, and that's everything that comes after. It's not separate. It's just after. So your existence is silence, and everything you think, say, do, act, express is an aspect of that silence itself. So the more time you spend in silence, the more authentic you actually are. And the more that the things that you do say have a greater importance because they're not forced. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to say anything to prove that your existence needs to be validated. Existence itself is its own validation. That's the difference between force and power. Power is silence. Force is telling everyone, hey, look how silent I am, if that makes sense. And of course, I'm here telling everyone, hey, look how silent I am. Let's see. Destiny says your truth is not a lie. It's what a person believes. The truth within each of us. Beautifully said once again. I have to apologize because I have a message from Mocha, who's at the store, and she's asking me if I need oatmeal, and I always need oatmeal. So let me answer that question very quickly. Sorry about that. Because I don't want to miss the oatmeal opportunity. I could probably, if I had to live on one thing, let's say two things, let's say three things. Sorry. That's the thing with being, you say the path to simplicity, and then you start adding all kinds of stuff. Oatmeal, greens, bananas, and I could probably be fine. I think. It's a funny thing, I'll add on Thoreau, one of my favorite authors, who wrote in one of his essays, simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. I believe it was a letter to Emerson, to which Emerson replied back, one simplicity would suffice. So I say, I could live on one thing, and then you hear me name three things. Simplicity sometimes is not as easy as we might imagine. Bandit says, if you could sit down with someone dead or alive for 30 minutes, who would it be, why, and oatmeal opportunity, mccarty, and what would you say or do? Easy answer, I'd sit with my father again, and I wouldn't say anything at all. I would enjoy his company. Other than that, I got everybody in the world that I need. 2 cats and a dog named Misty. And I think Mocha will, and she throws in lentils. Yeah, lentils, whole grain. See, making my life more complicated. I thought it would be oatmeal, bananas, and greens, and now I gotta have lentils too. Mocha, there is Burpee's Bandit here, who has accused me of being a master chemist hiding behind my glasses, and not, what was the other accusation, Bandit? I don't think you accused me of being on steroids, because clearly, except for the hair loss, carnivore, that's it. He accused me of being a secret carnivore, chemistry books behind me, hiding behind my glasses. It's a facade, pseudo-intellectual. And, you know what? Except for the chemistry books, he's 100% correct. I was carnivore at one time in my life. I had the carnivore diet before it was a popular carnivore diet because I didn't like fruits and vegetables. I didn't like very many. I liked some fruits, but I didn't like any vegetables at all. And I trained myself to eat things that I didn't enjoy, and now I can't imagine eating any other way. Destiny says lentils are a powerhouse of protein. Yes, they are, and not only that, lentils could feed the world, and they're easy to produce. And if you remember, and I'm sure Destiny remembers, in the Bible, Esau sold his birthright to Jacob for a bowl of lentil soup. Imagine how powerful that is, to sell your birthright when you are the firstborn, and you sell your birthright just for a bowl of lentil soup. That's got to be some pretty good stuff. I would probably sell my birthright for oatmeals. But I'm the baby of the family, so my birthright is not worth much. So, yes, to answer Bandit's question again, it would be my father. For sure. I have not spent, I have actually sat in the company of what some might consider the truly, truly wise swamis, monks, um, some might consider a saint. And I have been in no greater company than with my father. And you know what? I enjoy my company with Mocha, and I enjoy my company with Misty, the dog. My cats, here's the thing about cats. I love my cats, but they can be assholes. I don't always enjoy my company with my cats. I always love them, but you know what? I got a cat that'll wake me up. I get up every morning at 3. I have a cat that'll wake me up at 2:45 for no reason. Just, hey, because I'm a cat. Bandit says, do you believe in conspiracy theories? Not at all. I'm not saying that something might not be true, but I don't give it the time or energy of my beliefs, because if it's true, it's true, and it'll be evident in time. If it's not true, why would I want to invest any energy in it? I believe in the conspiracy of the universe to bring about a positive outcome. To be honest with you guys, I just pulled that completely out of my ass. But I do believe it. I do believe that the universe conspires to bring about the joy of every individual, if allowed to, uninterrupted. Destiny Forever says the power of lentils. You cannot go wrong with the power of lentils. What about lucky streaks? I've come across many a time things just working out perfectly, one after the other on a particular day. I'm going to tie that in with the conspiracy of the universe to bring about our benefit. Sometimes things just click. I will swear that some days in my basement, gravity smiles on me. Gravity says, you know what? Just to today, just for this session, just for this one rep, we're going to lighten things up for you. I'm not going to press down on you quite so hard. And I get 240 some 6 counts in 20 minutes. And then there's other days when gravity says, you know what? You need a little extra resistance. And maybe that's just it. Maybe some days we do need a little extra resistance. Make us stronger. Make us appreciate those days when gravity lightens up. I definitely believe in lucky streaks, but I can't say I believe in them. They happen. We've all experienced them. Synchronicities. And again, all a synchronicity is a meaningful coincidences where the forces of the universe, whatever they are, all come together and expose themselves right in front of us. The power of lentils compels you, says mccarty. Bandit says, I believe it's along those lines of the patterns you speak of. Oops. But there are waves of patterns we can jump on and ride the waves, and we need to ride the right ones. I agree with that as well. And I think the more we meditate, the more time we spend in silence, the more time we spend on nature, we get this sense of discernment where we see which waves we want to ride. Deepak Chopra is my meditation teacher. I took his teaching. I learned how to meditate from, not from Deepak personally, but from one of his students. And then when I became a meditation teacher, it was through Deepak Chopra's organization. And he calls it synchrodestiny. we learn to manage the synchronicities of our lives to achieve the outcome of our desire, the spontaneous fulfillment of our desires. And I love that phrase, spontaneous fulfillment. It means we're not working hard to get this. We're working smart. We're cooperating with nature. The whole purpose of yoga, the whole purpose of that spontaneous fulfillment of desire is working with the laws of nature, not against them. Allowing nature to work through us, allowing life to work through us, allowing reality to work through us. Destiny says that, yes, we are the universe and the universe is us. The universe is in us. More thoughts in my head. I definitely appreciate those thoughts, Destiny. And that's beautifully said as well. Mocha says maybe gravity wants to pull you down to embrace you. Possibility. But you know, gravity has seen me naked. So might have the opposite idea. Might actually pull me down and embrace me and then be like, oh man, what was I thinking? And then immediately spring back. So it is after 2. I'm coming up in an hour. I try to hold myself to that 30-minute mark. But some days, you're blessed with just the right company. And the conversation takes on a great life of its own, as it did today. And I appreciate everyone who joined in. I really appreciate that somebody actually came on, somebody that I don't know, and said I was a cutie. How much better could this day possibly get for me? I had my first online conversation with the legendary Burpees Bandit. It is what it is. Lewis came here. Destiny Forever Walks PhD, one of my all-time favorite people to talk to, came here as well. And Mocha is here, and she's buying me oatmeal. Although Burpees Bandit is claiming that she called him a cutie. You know what? I think you should let me have the win. I'd be willing to bet. You're young. You do a ton of burpees in 11 minutes. You're creative. Your videos are extraordinary. You live in Australia. You work out on the beach. You should let me have the win. We're all riding a good wave today. Yeah, we are, actually. The conversation was a great wave. I appreciate that, Bandit. This one time. If she comes back again, and if she ever says that again, we'll give the next one feel. For this one, I'm going to claim it. Especially with Mocha here. You know, I need to let her know. So there's a Mrs. Bandit. And she doesn't want you coming here on my channel with other women calling you cutie. That would serve no marriage whatsoever. And she also might prevent you from coming back to talk again. By the way, Mocha, Burpees Bandit, is in Australia. He's in Melbourne. He actually is, I guess it's after 4 now, but he was up before 4 o'clock. So I feel very privileged to have had this conversation with him. So having said that, I'm going to let you get on with your day. Destiny, Lewis, and Mocha, thank you all for joining the conversation. Very much appreciated. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning for burpees, tomorrow morning for a walk with Mocha, and you guys have a good day. Destiny says, Eric, thanks for the great discussion and fellowship, ever learning and growing into the knowledge of truth. You and me both, Destiny. And I appreciate actually being able to share that path with you. Thanks again, guys. I will see you tomorrow. Bandit, thank you.